Then on Sunday, I read an article in the New York Times about gentrification that's occurring in Black Harlem. And something hit me deep. So much of our life and so much of our choices are about taking a position. It's either this or that. And the position you take is really a function, excuse me, is really a function of your life experiences. And my friend says to me, where you stand is a function of where you sit. So today I want you to indulge me a little bit. We had a lot of angst about this in the office, and so this sort of talk is a little 10 minutes off of the press. We just sort of finished it. And also, Andre asked me to sort of have a big idea, and so I think this is a big idea, so please indulge me. And we debated about whether I would talk about the generations of housing policy and zoning laws that explicitly place low-income people in areas of low opportunity or in ghettos. And we talked about whether I should talk in detail about the effects of zoning and redlining and their contributions to lost opportunities for wealth generation for people of color, particularly. I could explain how urban resurgence that we're experiencing now is decimating the culture in communities where people of color have withstood decades of lack of investment. And I could also talk about the policies that have been intended to change the tide created by those practices that I just listed. But allow me to explain to you why I think the ways we address these issues can no longer be either or. Like all of you, I've lived all my life with various labels. I grew up, I was Sheila's daughter. I was Leon's sister. And then I was Elijah's mother and Kirk's girlfriend. And to many of you, right, I'm an advocate of the community development movement, an executive of a successful nonprofit, and now I'm the undersecretary. But the one thing I've always been is Black. And despite my personal and professional success, I bear the scars of those policies designed to right the travesties decades of segregation and institutional racism have inflicted on people who look like me. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Who's from Brooklyn? Brooklyn girls, best in the world. So I attended the local elementary school and was very happy. I graduated that school in the 5th grade, and I was both most popular and most likely to succeed. And when it was time to go to the next school, the choices in the neighborhood were so bad that my teachers implored my parents, they begged them to find another school for me. So I was bused to another school in another neighborhood 45 minutes away. At that time, schools were tracking students, creating classrooms for students of the same academic aptitude. And because I was wicked smart, I ended up in the class with other kids who were wicked smart. But unlike my previous educational experience, those kids were all white. And as kids can be, they were not nice to me. Not only was I the new kid, which is hard enough, but I was so different from them, and I defied their perceptions. I was smarter than most of them. I had nice clothes, and I didn't do the things that they saw other Black kids do, which made it even harder for me. And on top of that, the Black kids at the school didn't like me either, because I was new, and I wasn't in class with them. They teased me because of the way I talked. They made fun of my clothes, and they picked on me for being smart. So I found myself at 11 going from being most popular to being most despised. And the adults in my life just didn't understand. I went from this nurturing educational environment where everybody knew me to the one where I was just another kid. And I wasn't treated badly, but they didn't understand my experience. And my parents, right, they thought they'd done this great thing for me and that I should be grateful. It was hard being new, they thought, and I just had to learn to get along. That year changed the entire trajectory of my life. I began to feel a deep sense of unworthiness, otherness, that I've spent all the years since trying to overcome. I began to identify myself as African American or Black, and with all the things that that implies in America. And up until then, I wasn't really aware of race. Then suddenly, race meant everything to everyone around me, and it completely defined me. I hated it. In the Brown versus Board of Education case in 1954, it states, separating black children from others solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority that may affect their hearts and minds in a way unlikely ever to be undone. It continues, a sense of inferiority affects the motivation of a child to learn. Segregation deprives them of some of the benefits they would receive in an integrated school system. Well, that only works if you start by thinking segregation is not your choice. I actually wanted to go to school with other African American kids. I wanted to live with African American people. I wanted to be surrounded by the foods and the smells and the institutions that reflected my culture. I didn't want to have to give up a piece of myself to get a good education. Why does it have to be either or? So here's my problem. The discussion around fair housing and zoning is currently a matter of either or. It's framed as wanting to ensure that low-income people have a choice whether they want to live in communities to take advantage of school systems and other amenities. But we don't advocate to make investments in low-income communities so that people have a real choice, a choice to stay in their community and get a good education. We need to be advocating for both. Now, some say that there are lots of housing investments in low-income communities, and there are, but that's not what's at stake here. To be really advocates of choice, fair housing proponents also have to be advocates of charter schools. They also have to fight for wage increases, because these are the things that give low-income people better choices. Otherwise, there are going to be generations more of children that have to give up pieces of themselves to have a better life. More than 800,000 Massachusetts residents, including 118,000 children, live below the poverty line. And almost 163,000 people live in Suffolk County below the poverty line. All of these people live most likely in low-income neighborhoods, and now they can't move to some other place. But in fact, most of them probably don't want to. So we have to advocate for both zoning changes to create opportunities for people to move into more exclusive communities, and we have to advocate for investments in institutions and communities where low-income people already live. In order to really be about choice, we have to do both. And we have to be thoughtful about this both-and approach. As history has shown us, once a community starts improving, often the long-time low-income families are displaced. Our urban neighborhoods are transforming right before our eyes at rates that are hard to keep up with. Bodegas are being replaced by yoga studios and coffee shops. Potholes are being smoothed over with asphalt, sort of like rolling out the black carpet, welcoming our new upwardly mobile neighbors from the burbs. Some landmarks of pride, culture, and history are being converted into glass-front condos with multi-million-dollar price tags. Communities in the burbs have to both be welcoming to new people and be part of the fight for policies that allow low-income residents to take advantage of the investments that gentrification brings to their low-income urban communities. At the heart of this is that people don't like change, but change is inevitable. Neighborhoods will never remain static, and neither will people. But change has to apply to everyone, not just low-income folks or people of color. Everyone has to change if we're going to have a society that nurtures the hearts and minds of people that are different from us. We have to create a fair housing strategy that both invests in where those people are now and creates opportunities in other communities. Because choosing to be the only fill in the blank is not really a choice at all. We must create zoning laws to allow housing choice for all, with more options if any one of us decides to move. And we must fight for better education choices for low-income families in urban environments. We have to encourage a balanced approach to development that sees each lot or parcel as an opportunity to integrate communities that includes existing families with potential new neighbors. We have to enrich what is already good in neighborhoods while making room for new things. We have to make every alluring facet of our neighborhoods as top tier as possible for our established residents while making room for new people. So to those folks in communities who don't want to change the quality and character of their community, you should take note. By doing so, you might be giving up the chance to go to school next to a future undersecretary. And because fair housing isn't fair if I have to either live somewhere disconnected from my choices or get a good education for my child. The fair choice isn't either or, it's both and. Thank you.